True story. I was taking the quiver off my son's bow the other day, and it dawned on me that sucker is over 30 years old. It made me laugh enough that I called Drew and I said, hey, what a poor business model, you guys selling products that last over 30 years. He said, why don't you send it to me and I'll refinish it? I was like, man, you know how many bows this thing's been on? Because I don't. Change the hood, change the grippers. I mean, I've wood arrows, aluminum arrows, carbon arrows. That thing's seen it all. And I promise you, I probably would not buy a used bow for me. I'm kind of tough on stuff. So anyways, if you're looking for a quiver, I would tell you, if you want to spend your money once, better look at Selway Archery. You'll have that sucker a long time. Slide-ons, tie-ons, bolt-ons, they got all kinds. Give Drew a holler. Check them out. It'll last a heck of a long time. Man, here I am belly aching to myself that I'm not getting in the woods enough bear hunting this spring. I hear that elk bugle every time. I think, oh, come on, September. Wishing my life away. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Stickbow Chronicles, brought to you by Black Widow Bows. Flying solo, I don't think Blake and I's schedules will ever match up again, but on the bright side, he's not here to give me crap, so I guess there's always that. Hey, this week's guest is a reoccurring guest, David Tetzlaff. He is from down in Florida down there, and he's a unique cat, and I say that pun intended. He's been on the show before and talking about his 20 plus years of working with big cats, and I mean that in a literal sense, like the leopard type and tigers and stuff. So yeah, really a unique dude. Anyways, we're talking bow hunting in Florida, and we're also talking about some other big news he's got going on. If David's name rings a bell with you, it's probably because he has been the editor for Walk in the Woods, the Compton Quarterly. He's done a great job with that. And you might recognize his name from the book reviews in Traditional Bowhunter magazine. He's been doing those for several years. So he is no novice to the written word. And yeah, so we have a great conversation and talk about his next adventure in life. Now, with that being said, I'll give you a little hint. If you haven't gotten Traditional Bowhunter magazine before, you're missing out, because for over 30 years, that has been what us single string benders have relied on. And, it's still owned by the Conrads, TJ and Robin. They're not owned by a large media company like most all other magazines are. So it's really great magazine. Go check it out over at tradbow.com. You can slap the subscription button, and they've given us a promo code. If you plug in TSC, like the Stickbow Chronicles, TSC21, that'll get you 7 issues for the price of 6. Go check them out. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. What else we got going on? And then I did want to mention, I didn't mention it in this podcast, and I wished I had. David is an editor over at Walk in the Woods, and we all have stories to tell. So I've written a few stories, and trust me, I am no writer. I'm a knucklehead, and I'll guarantee you that 95% of you out there wouldn't consider yourself a writer either. But it is so cool when you have a story to tell, whether it's a successful hunt or just something that inspires you from the outdoors you want to get down. It's like reliving the hunt when you actually do sit down and pour it out. And for me, I just write it like I say it, which isn't good. And then you hand it to a guy like David, and he fixes it for you. So, man, you're missing out if you had some great hunt or a great experience. Sitting down and writing it, it really is reliving it again. So give it a try. You might surprise yourself. I Hunt Close Trad Kill 2021 in full swing. We want to see your trad kills from January 1st to December 1st of 2021. Send those photos with a short description over to ihuntcloseofficial@gmail.com. Not the stickbow@gmail.com, not my Instagram account, not my phone, not anywhere, but ihuntcloseofficial@gmail.com. We had several hundred entries last year. It was a lot of fun. Share them up. We share those photos up. It doesn't have to be a great big bull or a buck or a world-class photo even. Just get it out there. It's a blast. And if it is your first trad kill, we took one of the prize packages and set that aside, so make sure you mention that. We've already had one or two first trad kills. We also had a coos deer already. We got a coos deer, and apparently those are really tough with a stick bow. A really tough period, but with a stick bow, it's quite an accomplishment. We took the Sitka gear package, set that aside for the first trad kill. Looking forward to seeing them. We got stuff from Selway Archery, Kifaru International, we got Iron Will Broadhead, Safari Tough. We got some other stuff in the works. So get them sent over. Also coming right up, Compton's Rendezvous in Berrien Springs. That's going to be a blast. That is going to be a blast. I think that's it. I'm probably missing something, but we'll get you out of here. Big shout out to the sponsors, Selway Archery, The Footed Shaft, Kifaru International, Backwoods Grind Coffee, which they have a promo code too. You got to go check them out. That is really good coffee. I've been drinking it for a few months now. Go over to their website. They have sampler packs if you don't want to commit to one roast. So get a sampler pack and see what you want to get, and plug in the promo code SB Chronicles 10. That'll get you 10% off. So if you go into the show notes, you'll see a hyperlink for Traditional Bowhunter Magazine. You'll see one for all our sponsors, and y'all have a great week. Keep listening. Appreciate all the messages. Share it up with your friends. That's all I got. Roger out. David Tetzlaff, a recurring guest. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Rob. Good to hear from you, man.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. How's things down in Florida?
Summer's winding up. It's humidity's not here yet, but it was 88 today, so it's coming. It's a long, hot summer. So when you're here, we're allowed to start applying for our permits for our management areas and for our national wildlife refuges this past weekend. So I have probably never put in for so many permits as I did, because I've spent the last 3 years building my new real estate drone photography business and sacrificing a lot of time and hunting and weekends. And I decided it's not going to happen this year. So I'm going to spend as much time in the woods as possible.
Good for you. So you finished one big project, and we won't get into it right yet, but you got another big project starting up.
Yes, we do.
I was talking to Brian Kelzer's dad, Scott, today, and it was humid. They were over in Bozeman, Montana, and it was humid over there. So much humidity, it's going to be a foot of snow. So he called me. He said, "Hey, man, I'm not going to go horn hunting. What do you say we do that podcast now?" So just a different kind of humidity, different shape.
Yeah, I'll take hurricane season over a foot of snow.
I don't know if I agree with you, man.
No, I'll take the risk.
Hey, I just saw a picture, and you might be able to enlighten me a little bit. Somebody just posted in the Stickbow Chronicles a photo of an alligator. It's a 10-foot alligator, and he said it was spot and stalk on foot in the daytime. Is that common? You ever heard of that?
No.
No,
not at all. I mean, I've never hunted gators. I've just worked with them too much. I'm just too close.
Yeah, but I get that. But if you
could you do it? Possibly, but they're sharp. I mean, you think they're totally zoned out and sleeping, on the side of a pond or lake, and they know you're coming. They hit the water. Although, I'll throw myself under the bus with this one. I'm hunting this management area in South Florida. It's just midday, and I know nothing's moving, so I just took a long hike. And I come to this pond and I look, and on the side of this pond, there's a 6-foot gator laying there. And you can't, there was no gator hunting then in this area at all. And I wanted to see, how close can I get before this thing fails and hits the water? So I get closer and closer, and it's not moving. I'm like, this doesn't happen. Something's up here. And then finally the wind changes, and I get a whip. The thing is dead. It is DOA. So this 6-foot gator is laying on the side of this pond. It's dead. And I walk up, and it had been manhandled by something bigger. So then I look out, and there's this little island about 60, 80 yards away out of this pond, and there's a 10-footer. And as soon as he saw me, he hit the water. So I figured that big guy trashed the little one that was just, it's just dead laying there. Look, from a distance, looks like he was sunning himself, but he'd been wrecked. Something snapped him.
You and I have the same stalking skills. I could sneak up on a dead gator for sure.
Yeah. When they're laying there chill, you don't know until you get up, and then he wasn't going anywhere. He was done. But typically, so somebody got close enough to get one. That's work. That's cool.
Well, and to you say they look like they're just laying there and chill, but that's kind of like me. If I'm laying on the couch, I might look like I'm just but I'm like a coiled spring. I am ready to go at any minute. Any minute. Well, I'm interested where this guy shot, the shot placement. I'm going to have to get back on there and message him. That's just interesting to me. That's pretty cool.
Vitals kind of, tucked in there by the front leg. So when you're, if you're actually, the thing about gator hunting is that most of them are not the arrows and anchor. And then, they bring them to the boat and they finish them with a bang stick, or they stick a knife in the skull and turn their brains into scrambled eggs. But, I understand why they have to do that. Then they tape the mouth before they even bring the gator into the boat or airboat or whatever, because a lot of quote unquote dead gators have come alive and caused a lot of chaos.
Oh, I
so,
imagine.
They make sure the thing is super dead and mouth taped, because, once they snap onto you, they don't let go. They're taking something with them even when they're half dead.
I don't imagine. I imagine so. And then the other thing that gets me is, I got an idea where their vitals are, but you think about the angle of the arrow. So if you're 20, 25 yards and you have that angle, it doesn't seem like much, but I can't imagine their vitals are very deep. So yeah, I'm just fascinated where the guy, where shot placement was and how it all went.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I'd like to hear the story.
Yeah, we'll jump over Stickbow Chronicles group page and we'll hit the guy up.
Cool.
Being we're all over the map right now. Being a what would you call yourself? Not I guess zookeeper. What would you do?
A little bit of everything. I was trained big cats and handled just about everything and ran zoos and
yeah. So you might find it.
I probably did.
Yeah, so you might find it interesting. I just came back from Central Idaho on a little trip there, and I saw a Wolverine. I didn't just see it. Yes, I know it. I didn't just see it from a distance, and I didn't just see it for a second. I got to watch this thing at 20 yards for about 30, 40. The whole encounter lasted probably a minute and 15 seconds, but then it ends up 20 yards broadside, and I'm just like, the whole time, I won't say exactly the words I was mouthing, but I was like, oh, I can't believe this. At first, I thought it was a bear cub. When it was out there a ways, I thought it was a bear cub, and it was running right towards me. And then once, I was like, oh my God, that's a Wolverine. And then I was, dropping some explicitives, and he ends up 20 yards broadside, and I'm like, yep, 24, 28 inches tall. I think he was 30 inches tall, like 35, maybe 40 pounds. That was super cool, man.
No, they're awesome animals. They're almost our version of a honey badger.
Yeah. I got to see one.
Except bigger than a honey badger.
Yeah, I got to see one my first trip to Alaska. My very first trip, probably like the second or third day. I got to see one, and that was cool. But to see one in Idaho, there's not a lot of people that. There's not a lot of people.
So.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think so.
So that was cool.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I felt pretty lucky. Well, I didn't see a bear, so I need it was it was like the participation award I saw. I got to see a Wolverine, so I'll take it.
Well, that's the thing about just being out there. You just you can't see that stuff unless you can't see from the couch.
Yep.
TV doesn't count. Sorry, you got to be out there. And that's the thing I think that non-hunters don't get about us is just every time you're out there, something happens. You see something you wouldn't have done or seen any other time, even when you're not actually in the act of hunting. And that's why I wrote that piece a couple years ago in TBM called Empty Cooler Hunts. It was about the stuff that happens when you're not dropping the string. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on just by being there.
Absolutely. And people say, oh, you're so lucky, because I have seen some cool stuff, but man, that equates to a lot of days in the woods. And it's like I'm pretty fortunate. I don't just get a couple weeks. I probably push the envelope there. I put a lot of time out in the woods. I don't kill a lot of stuff per se, but man, I'm covering ground and seeing cool stuff. So what do you got on tap this year for hunts? Now you mentioned tags you're putting in. Is that like deer?
So here in Florida, we've got it's between 5 and 6 million acres of public land between our wildlife management areas and our national wildlife refuges. So usually the middle of May, you can start applying for what we call quotas here. So that you put in, and doesn't mean you're going to get it. You might put in for 6 or 8 hunts, and if you get a couple, you're lucky because everybody's trying. So you put in, and then usually by the end of June, early July, you go back and your page on the, you got your personal page on the Game Commission site where all your info is, and you go in there and then you find out, what hunts you've pulled, and some are, free, and then usually the refuges have, I think it's, if you pull a refuge permit, it's $27.50, but so what? That's pocket change, and each one has its own. You might have the same management area, and they might have 3 different weekends you can apply for in archery, and the refuges are usually 5-day hunts, and you just come and go as you please for those 5 days if you've got your permit. And then we put in for St. Vincent Island, which I've hunted there half a dozen times, and I took a whitetail doe on my first hunt, and I've only got 2 shots out there. It's one of those things where it's all about picking a spot. So my first hunt out there, I got a doe, and then I think 2 hunts later, that's the cool thing about St. Vincent is, you can literally hunt and you listen to dolphins.
Really?
Surface, because you can hunt that close to the beach. So there's all kinds of habitat out there. It's a big island right off Apalachicola in the Gulf. And I think it's my second or third hunt. There's a big doe walking along this oyster bed, and I just didn't pick a spot and sent it right over back and discussed it. And as soon as she left, I waited a couple hours, nothing else happened. And right where she was standing was a washed up plastic Mountain Dew bottle, and I punched it at 20 yards. It's like, yeah, you can shoot. You just screwed up, stupid.
Yeah. When I was in Georgia, we were hunting coastal islands out in Georgia. We were
Blackbeard?
No, I think it was. They were just like
Sapelo and Blackbeard.
No, it wasn't like maybe an island. Maybe that's not the right term. It was just like all these channels and stuff. And
okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
But I was amazed at the garbage that like I don't know, the hurricanes, they blow in all this stuff. But you talk about a stump shooting mecca. You could shoot volleyballs and man, it was all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah, that was cool. So what's a when you say a big doe, how big are your deer down there in Florida?
St. Vincent's strange because I've seen some big deer, and it's an island, but they still have a lot of the same food sources. There's an acorn mast out there and so forth. So a lot of it is typical, just not quite the same. So sometimes an adult doe out there will just be 65 pounds. It's tiny, but typically the does I've had in central South Florida are usually in the 75 to 90 pound range. And bucks are, the biggest buck I ever got in South Florida was 150. And, that was on public land, and, they thought he was huge. And then further south in the in the Everglades. I got an 8-point one time that was just 125 pounds live weight. It's just the further south you get, typically the worse the food source gets. And these deer that live in these swamps, it's tough. It's especially these deer that live out in the edge of the swamps or in the swamps where there's a lot of oak. There's no oak mast, and they're just scrounging for whatever they can get.
Hey, real quick, is there anything we can do with your audio? I can't stop it from cutting out, but it sounds a little hollow, or sounds like got some background noise a little bit or something.
Let me turn off this AC unit.
Oh,
I got this wall unit here. Maybe that'll help. Is that better?
I think so.
Okay.
So you mentioned 5 or 6 million acres. Did you say? Is that what you said?
That's what we have in Florida. Yeah, between the National Wildlife Refuges and the Game Commission management areas. Yeah, there's I think 5.5 million acres of huntable public land here. And Florida's a big state. It's super populated. 22 million people now, but there's room to get away from people if you want to.
Now, that's not continuous acreage, is it?
No. But in some areas, they're trying to have this connectivity, especially in South Florida. They're trying to work with private landowners to make these contiguous properties that would, say, go from the Everglades Big Cypress and then go north through the center of the state. So that's basically working out things with property owners to keep wild places wild. So animals can move, because unless you've got corridors, it's basically an island. And for the most part, South Florida is an island. When you think about just north of Fort Myers, you've got the Caloosahatchee River that flows in from the Gulf, and then you've got Lake Okeechobee in the middle, and then you got the St. Lucie Canal that goes out towards the Atlantic. So unless something swims, South Florida's an island.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's why they're surprised, because there's almost too many panthers. That's what they call them down there. It's your puma, it's your cougar. The population's growing, and there's probably almost too many for the habitat now, because the cats, unless they're swimming, they've got no place to go. So they're still fighting, killing each other, getting hit by cars. It's kind of a mess. Way beyond our purview here, but it's just, I know a lot of biologists. I'm really interested in that side of it, how that type of animal management works.
Yeah, well, I imagine they have an endless food supply with the hogs down there.
That really depends. There's areas where hogs are really prolific, and there's areas where you don't even see them anymore. I was on a lease outside of town when I still lived in South Florida, and it used to be hog hunting was easy there. And I was on it for a couple of years, and the hogs just got more scarce and more scarce. And, whether it's disease, you've got, the coyote population's growing. Obviously, they're not going to take out big boars and sows, but they're taking out piglets, and then the cougar population growing. So yeah, it's hard pickings. And plus a lot of it's habitat management. I hadn't hunted the Big Cypress for a couple of years, and I took a shot at it 3 times last winter. And, a lot of habitat management. People don't know that, between the COVID pandemic, that a lot of things weren't getting done because they don't want people, going out to jobs 4, 5, 6 in a truck like they used to. So there's a lot of areas that would normally be burned that were not. There's some water issues there where the water is a lot higher than it used to be. So all that does not favor the deer at all. So I actually sat a total of 13 hours in spots where I've seen and killed deer and didn't see one. So this was a weird fall down there, because when you've got the high grass, when it's not burned, that favors the cats. Because they can sneak, they can get closer to the deer that way. So that tall grass, when you don't burn, the cougars say, "Hey, thanks, appreciate it," because they can get a whole lot closer, day or night. And then plus you add all the water, that's stressful when you've got high water still in the wintertime too.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that, but it makes perfect sense. Huh.
Yeah, like they've done studies. Zebra in Africa, they at nighttime they actually prefer to find short grasses because they've got more visibility to see predators coming, eating short grass at night rather than getting in the long grass at night.
Well, I bet that didn't take them long to figure that out.
Probably not.
So what are you shooting these days for a bow? What are you bending?
Funny you should ask,
Oh,
Rob.
it is funny. I should ask, shouldn't it?
Yeah, with everything else going on between building a new career and the magazine thing we'll chat up, my project this summer is to learn to shoot left-handed.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I've been fighting this cross-eye dominance thing for too long and just not happy with inconsistencies. And I've got an old injury from my past career to my right arm and some tendonitis in the right elbow. And finally, I'm just like, I've hit the wall. I'm done. I should have done it years ago. So I called up Roger at Widow and said, you got a lightweight lefty laying around. So I did send it to me and pay the UPS and had it for 7 days and thought, I think this is doable.
Wow.
I'm not as intimidated as I thought I would be. So I sent it back and said, yep, I'm going to get it. I just say I'm going to pull the trigger on it. So sat and thought, I'm like, I like that bow. It was nice green leaf. It's 40, I've never bought a stock bow from Widow before, but it's 42 at 28 and I'm drawing 29 and a half. So I called Roger back up and I said, is that green leaf still laying around? He goes, yep. You guys sell those stock bows? He goes, yep. So I said, put it in the mail.
Wow.
So it's back to me and I'm out here every spare chance I get shooting close range, working on my form. And yeah, it's a total alien thing when you've been, right-handed for 25 years, but it's something I should have done and didn't. So that's my summer project. And I actually had G. Fred had emailed me about something else about the magazine. So I said, this is my summer thing. So he actually sent me some good advice, some starting advice, because obviously he's run into a lot of people that have gone through this. And I got a note here. I'm probably going to buy some of those online archery courses. I know you bought the Tom Klum one. Yeah. So, I'm just trying to just sponge up everything, just like I'm starting over, and I'm having a really good time at it. It's almost like I've never done it before. So archery has never felt as fresh or exciting as it is for me right now.
Two sides of the coin there. Number one, my hat's off to anybody that switches hand like that. I mean, that's pretty. To me, that's damned intimidating. But like you just touched on, you're starting over. So the opportunity to start without some bad habits is probably legitimate. So that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a rewiring of the computer between your ears.
Yeah,
and I've already, I've always been fought snapping, just punching it quick. And I've never, this lefty thing, I'm settling into an anchor, and I haven't short drawed since I started shooting lefty.
Wow. Cool. Did you put a clicker on it?
No. I've tried the clicker before, but right now I'm coming to full draw, and I'm not gonna mess with what I'm doing right now. I'm just, I'm shooting real close. I start at, point blank range, and, now I'm, just shooting 5-10 yards for form. And so far I'm pretty happy.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. And yeah, and
it's doable. One of my best friends, Chris, he had to do it because of an arm injury. And he turned it around. So, he reminded me, I did it too. It's not impossible. I'm like, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Oh man. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to hearing how that works for you. And I got to back up. You said you were right-handed for 25 years. I'm just going to tell the listeners, I don't believe David is 25 years old. Maybe that's a bit.
No, I don't know if I'd want to be, actually.
Yeah. You got a point there. So you got something else going on big in your world.
Yes, we do.
What do you got?
Do you want to start at the beginning?
Sure. I'm just going to throw. Well, first off, let me just introduce you as you're the magazine editor for Compton's Walk in the Woods.
Walk in the Woods.
And man, I'll tell you, you have done a fantastic job with that. I mean, you've done a great job with that. But I think it was all leading up to the inevitability of the next.
Yeah, unbeknownst to me. But when I called Dennis Harper, this is now over 3 years ago, because they put some in the magazine, and the way they worded it, we need some help with the magazine, is the way it was worded. So when I called them up, I said, I see you need some help. And it turned out help was doing it. So Yeah, I mean, the way they phrased it roped me in, but when Dennis and I spoke, and I think we had a good conversation, and he goes, "Yeah, okay, let me talk with the board," and he called me back a couple of days later and said, "You're it." So with Compton, he gave me, here's kind of how we get it moving, and then basically they turned me loose. So I, got to pretty much do whatever I wanted to do and types of stories and things. Did I get to do everything I wanted to? No, I didn't. There's still some goals I had with Compton, and and they've got a new editor. I can't say who it is yet, but they've announced it. But it's somebody that I helped cherry pick for them. So there'll be a transition for that person as well, and I'm here to help because there's a lot of it that is given to you, but a lot of it you kind of have to learn as you go, and especially the editing of it and working with the folks that want to see their work in Compton. So it was a really, really rewarding 2.5 years working with Walk in the Woods, and it yes, you're right, it did set the stage. I wasn't trying to set a stage for anything, but that's just the way it worked out. So I was just doing what I was doing, 4 issues a year, and then at the end of January, I got a email from TJ Conrad's at Traditional Bowhunter and said, "Can we talk sometime?" I'm like, okay. Obviously TJ and I've known each other. We've had met in person like twice over the years. I brought him down to be a guest speaker for the last year I was president of Traditional Bowhunters of Florida. I wanted to go out the bang, so TJ came down, and saw him at Compton. But typically it's always working with Don Thomas. So when TJ emails me and says he wants to talk, it's okay. What's going to happen now? Are they canceling my column? What's going on? My book review column? So we called up and we exchanged some pleasantries, and TJ said, "Well, I'm just going to get right to it. Don has decided to retire after 20 years in the magazine, and you're our first choice. What do you think?" And, of course, I have to pick myself up off the floor and then resume the conversation. But they had some boxes they wanted checked, and they said I checked all the boxes. And, thankfully being the world's greatest bow hunter isn't one of them, but I'm going to keep working at that part of it. So after we settled it all out, and I said yes, and they said yes, because it is, traditional bow hunter. It's really, it's, TJ's baby. And, Robin, his wife, works really close with him, and Carrie, who and Amanda. So it's really, it's a family operation. And, I've always, even though I've, just been, kind of on the periphery, not the inner circle, being a contributor and having my column. But, once you get inside the inner circle, you just, the whole mechanism that runs the magazine is pretty incredible. I know it's a lot of work, just, when you get your issue in the mail, just appreciate, what goes into every single issue. The publishing business is, you've got to be ambitious. It's complicated. There's, right now I'm in, will be in the learning phase for a while. So, once the dust settled and we all figured out that, I'm happy to step in and work with the team, that Don started sending me kind of what we'll call test articles. Start off with some small stuff and then start giving me stuff. So it was basically the E. Donald Thomas Jr. boot camp of editing. And it was taking everything that I've kind of learned on my own with Compton, and then now having arguably one of the best outdoor writers of our time be my coach. Yeah. And I can't think of anybody better to coach me into this than Don. I mean, he's been working with TJ for 20 years. Don's written 22 books. He's a contributor to most of the major outdoor magazines. So, if you've got a coach, Don's the guy.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then once you get your feet under you, you had some great ideas with Walk in the Woods, and, maybe you can start to spread your wings and make it your own. I'm pretty excited for you. I'm pretty excited for the magazine. You and I have talked over the last few years, and I think you're going to do a great job.
Yeah, I mean, what you don't want to do is, I don't want to be a Cape Buffalo in the China shop, because it's a well-run professional organization. So the last thing Dave's going to do is jump in and say, let's do this. No, I'm wading into it and learning how it all works. And, a lot of it is, that the getting the material from the contributors. And that's the other thing that, as you get inside the inner circle, the passion the writers and contributors have for the magazine is just, it's really, I don't know if there's another outdoor magazine there. Well, there's probably a couple, maybe Sporting Classics, Grays, things like that, where you see such a passion for the content and the appreciation for being a part of it, because, it's a magazine that's been successful, will continue to be successful. But there's so much love and heart in everybody that's involved with it. I think that's I think the most appealing thing for me. But when you're getting the material, you've got everybody from, it might be their first effort to somebody who's been writing for them for quite a long time. So you've got, it runs the gamut when you start seeing material that people submit, and it's learning of the types of things that absolutely will in the magazine. There's things that, Robin picks, because you go on the TBM website, there's things that, Robin chooses for our online content, or we choose together. And just like with Compton, there's things where, hey, appreciate it, but keep working on this or this, because, if you want to write and really learn the craft, you've got to apply yourself. And I think that's probably one of the things that helped me get the job, is I wanted to get better, and you can beat the snot out of me and I don't care, I'm going to come back for more. So it's finding that mentor. And, in my case, I got lucky because, Don's been helping me even when I wrote something that wasn't for a traditional bow hunter. Don graciously would look at things and point things out for me. And, I always mention Jay Campbell. Jay's written for a lot of magazines, and his book, I just actually reread Longbow because Jay is such a good writer. It's like, I want to, what Jay told me a long time ago is, write every day, read every night, if you want to get better. But, I've already interacted with, a couple of folks who, they really, really want to be a traditional bow hunter, but it's just not quite there yet. So, a couple of them are like, hey, pointing some things out from some, things to learn and study. And they're like, there was no anger. Oh, you didn't take my article. It was, thanks. Nobody ever pointed it out to me before. I really appreciate that. So those are the kind of people you want to see try to get published again, that appreciate there is a craft here, and you just don't throw something on paper and expect to, see it in the mailbox. It takes work.
Oh, it's certainly when you read a good piece, if it takes you and like for me, if it transports me there with the person and you're seeing that stuff and it's vivid, I mean it's awesome. I do imagine that people get their feelings hurt, and you would hate to dissuade somebody. So being tactful and saying, it's good, but here's what you got to do. I mean, you certainly helped me out on that last thing that I wrote. And you had like 5, I got them written down somewhere. You had like 5 points that it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But and then it's pretty cool to see your name in a magazine when you do get something printed.
Absolutely. You had a great story there, and it didn't hurt that, you had good photo support too from your buddy.
Aaron does pretty good with photos. He's all right.
He's very good. And see, that's what we want to see more of. I mean, usually because, I was taught years ago that sometimes you'll see, and I'm not talking just TBM, any of the outdoor magazines, sometimes, a slightly above average piece with a lot of photo content will get snatched before something that's possibly written a little bit better, but with no good photo support. Because, when you want to get in the magazine and submit something, you can't send in a bunch of, so cell phone pictures with your thing, so that's the biggest thing that you have to push is, and when you look at the magazine, you can tell who's using a real camera and who's, contributing a lot of photos, because, I know that, ultimately TJ is picking out all the photos, we're seeing them, but, TJ, picks out. So, when you want to be published and you've got a nice piece, most people want to see 10, 12, even 15 photos. And then, when you look at an article, a big 2,500, 3,000 piece story that, you're going to, maybe see 6, 7 photos, but, editors like choices because they're reading the material and they want to pick the photos that best accompany the material.
Geez, I don't know, maybe a year ago, maybe not quite a year ago. I talked to, I guess it was Brian and gosh, I forget his Rourke from up in
Brown with Homer Ocean.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a piece with them and we shot the breeze and talking about the magazine. One thing that jumps out at me about TBM, and I think it's important for people to remember, is that it is family owned. And I can't think of off the top of my head, I'm sure I'm just talking out of my butt here, but so many of the magazines today are owned by big media companies. And what it turns into is just as much money as they can make on advertising. And it's all, just so much baloney. And as far as the advertising goes, it's just important, I think, for us as a community, a traditional bow hunting community, to remember that this is a family-owned business, and yeah, you want to see it flourish, especially in today's corporate world.
Yeah, a couple issues ago in Compton, I did an interview with Clay Newcomb, and he bought Bear Hunting magazine.
Yeah.
And one of my questions to him was, have you always been interested in the writing, publishing? And he goes, no, not really. But it sounded like something I'd really want to do. So, to kind of paraphrase him, just sometimes the passion for something can equate for actual training, because if you're really into it, you're going to apply yourself and do your best, no matter, what your background is, so, Don is out, obviously a trained physician, but, in college, he's got, an English degree or associates or something. I don't. But I've been studying like crazy and wanting to learn the craft. And that's the thing about writing, is you always are pushing to do better than the last time.
So when did you start being interested in writing? What was your first, what set the stage? I mean, you just get a wild hair and write for somebody?
Actually, in middle school, I liked creative writing the best, and I just kind of lost it, never followed up on it. So when I was in Traditional Bow Hunters of Florida, we had our magazine came out 3 times a year, Stick Bow News, and I just started. I was just the magazine's kind of thin. I think we just need some stories. So I wrote a couple, and the president at the time, John McCormick, a good friend of mine, he put them both in, and I remember one of the guys came up and goes, "Okay, we got a writer now." And, I look back at it now, it's absolute rubbish, but, they were happy to have some more content for the magazine. So you look at it and go, okay, this is the way I wrote it, and let's try again. And so I just was writing for our and this is what I've told folks, how do I get published? I said, just start with your state magazine, start with your state magazine. If they like it and they're happy, then, you've got PBS, Compton. I mean, those are all good places to get material in. And not that either one of those are just for starters, not at all, because you've got very good writers who are putting stuff in PBS and in Compton.
Yeah.
But, it's not quite the same process as TBM or Bowhunter or Peterson's or something like that. There's, obviously a lot more scrutiny with stuff that ends up, in a pay magazine. So I just started writing, my first feature in TBM, I think was on St. Vincent Island that Don bought. And, once you see it out there and you open it up, and then it gets addicting. It's like, that's pretty cool. I opened a national magazine that came in the mailbox, and there's my story. I want to see that again.
Oh, that's cool. I do see, going back to the photography part of it, it has become evident to me over the last 8 months or something. There's always been younger people, and they message Aaron or ask Aaron a lot, but I see it sometimes, like, not that they're asking me, don't get me wrong, but you see people like, hey, I want to be in the industry. I want to be in the industry. Now, I'm not really down with the industry, but it's obvious to me that a good photograph, it's like if somebody is a good photographer, that's going to open doors. I mean, when you're on social media and you see a quality picture, I think that is like the way to break into it. You know, like you're saying, I mean, it can be a little subpar on the writing, but you have good photography. It's going to get you noticed.
Absolutely. So that's why, it's important that if you want to take those steps to be seen, to be published, take your cell phone camera in the woods if you want to, but, I mean, there's plenty of point and shoots now. Jerry Goins has made this point a number of times. There are some decent point and shoots that will take a good enough photo that, Jerry mentioned in an article that he wrote that, he took all this big gear out in a hunt and probably took 20 pictures. And, the next time he took his point and shoot that he kept on his hip and took hundreds. Yeah. Because it's just a lot more easy, convenient. So, if you've got a good point and shoot camera, it doesn't mean you've got to drag the heavy stuff around with you to, capture a decent photo. So yeah, just do that part of it because it's so important because, you look at TBM and, Don and Lori supply a lot of wildlife photos. I mean, they're both, very accomplished wildlife photographers. And, a lot of times if an article's on a specific species, Don and Lori have a picture and that's where they're not expecting the author to be a wildlife photographer, but the author is expected to provide the support photos of the harvest, the camp life, scenery, things like that. So, it all kind of, ties together that way.
I have a little Panasonic, I don't know what the hell, point and shoot camera. And Blake Hunter, my co-host here, he's a dang good photographer. And he had me set it up. He talked me through it and set it up in RAW. Now, I don't know what the heck that means, but, and then I can send him the SD card and he can, I don't know, extract the pictures and make them look good, I guess.
Yeah. RAW just gives you a lot of editing ability.
Yeah.
That's why you want to shoot in RAW. That's why, my real estate and drone stuff, is shot in RAW because that gives me the flexibility to edit more comfortably.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he knows what he's talking about.
So what's the transition look like? You say Don's got a few more issues. You're working into the mix.
Yeah. The first one on my own will be the February, March issue. So Don's, right now, I've helped work on a couple things, but, it's all Don and TJ. TJ's working on, actually I have being in the inner circle now, I've got the proof of it. So I'm looking at it myself too, the August, September issue. And then Don's already got most of October, November, December, January built out because that's the thing about the real world here. Is that they work so far out. Don actually has stuff scheduled far into 2022. Wow. So some magazines are having it tough, but traditional Bowhunter, if you're scheduling material out that far, people want to be in it.
That's cool.
So that's when I started to see Don's notes and how far out he's been pushing because, you could jam up a bunch of issues right away, but there's some issues are more whitetail specific. Some are, far north, adventure, bear, turkey. So, you look at TBM and throughout the year, there's not heavy themes, but there's certain issues where you're going to see more of, one species than another just because of the way it's set up. So, you might get a piece that, you definitely want to put in the far north, but your one for this year is filled out. So you might want to put it in next year. So you've got to, I think that's, the editing skills aside, I think that's the big learning curve for me is the scheduling and where things fit. I'm pretty comfortable with the editing, but that's the huge learning curve is the scheduling and where things go and why. So I'm really studying what they're doing. Probably that more than anything.
And that's the one of the fun things for me about the podcast is like, I'm not scheduling out next year for sure, but just checking those boxes and having a plan and not just like, well, who are we going to put on this week? scheduling it out like, hey, in August, I want to be doing this, and looking at people and who you want to bring in. I mean, to me, that's part of the fun of it is planning and putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you got that side of it. And then, as I'm wading into it all, I've got ideas and questions. So, the way I work right now is, I'm looking up and I've got a cork board and then I've got a dry erase board. So Don has been sending me a lot of things relevant to editing, scheduling, and so forth. So I've got pages and pages printed up so I can study that in front of me. And then I got my dry erase board on the other side. And it's like, when I think of an idea, it goes there, or something immediate. So, we've been getting stuff in. Stuff is coming in all the time. So I'm, Don will be like, okay, I got this one. I know where that one's going to go. But, from these on, you take those ones. So, anything Don's punting to me to do from scratch with a contributor myself, and, I'm saving it. And I've got a bunch of stuff I'm looking at that I've got to read and edit and get back with a contributor. So a lot of it is organization, but also, communicating with contributors, because people are excited and they want to be in it.
So I don't want to brag, but I got a dry erase board too.
I have taught this to so many, not to you, obviously, because you've got your own, but it's something that I started doing. I can't say I started. I think my wife, Kelly, put it in my office years ago. But everywhere I went since the other job, a couple of jobs after that, I would get in and get my office set up. And then all of a sudden, maintenance is coming in, or facilities, and they're putting, big and small dry erase boards. And people walk in my office, and every time they come in, there's something new on it. It's like, yeah, I walk around, I notice stuff, and there's projects to do, and they're going to be on there. And they never saw anybody work that way. But for me, that's my system.
Yeah. I like guests, like somebody will just catch my eye on social media or in a magazine and be like, oh, their name goes on the board. And you just like, well, that's where's that going to fit in? But yeah, I was making a joke about 6 months ago. I was feeling pretty mature. I was feeling like an adult. I have a dry erase board now.
Yeah.
Except except some of the stuff written on it here over here. It's not like adult. That's pretty immature, but it's good for that too.
I did have a couple of notes. I just, my eldest son, he, his PhD's done. He started a family, just bought his first house, and, he went in the woods with me when he was younger, but, once he started college and working through, several universities and so forth. So he called me and goes, I'd like to get into hunting now. I think I'm at that point. So, I sent him a bunch of stuff from here, Samick sage I had laying around, a few accessories. He got a box, arrived up to him the other day in Illinois, $200 worth of stuff from Three Rivers in it. So, I'm just setting him up, and I'm hoping that he can drive down to Compton. I said, well, just go out in the parking lot or somewhere, and I'll, show you what all this junk is for, because he hasn't seen it all. But, he can shoot. He can shoot a trad bow. I mean, he hadn't shot in years, and he was down for a month with his family after Christmas, and we're out in the back 40. And I mean, within minutes, he's hitting stuff at 15 yards with a judo with my old bear grizzly. So
nice.
I think we're going to make a hunter out of the guy.
So was he, did he play sports?
Not really in school. He was hell on wheels on soccer when he was younger. Now Sasha James, and yeah, he's named after the Jaguar.
Oh, cool.
Sasha.
Yeah.
That's where I got the idea. And James, as if he didn't want to use the Sasha part, but I'd always love that name, Sasha Simo. I mean, that guy was just, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Jaguar.
We talked, I think we,
yeah, we did. We talked about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, my middle son, Kyle, he was, played basketball through high school. So, he's an athlete. And then my youngest son, Zane, he's almost 18, and he's messed around with some basketball, not on the school level, just team stuff, county and city stuff when he was younger. But, right now both my younger sons are gym rats. I mean, they look like little Tarzans. That's what they do.
Well, I was curious if your son was picking it up that quick, if he was, was it hand-eye coordination, if he's one of those guys.
Yeah, they're all, he is. Yeah, so they've all got really good. Yeah, Sasha's got awesome hand-eye coordination. But, he always shot bows when he was little. But the only thing he shot was, he just wasn't, I think he was ready for the woods with trad bow. But when he was 15, we went out with a hog hunt and gave him a 308, and first shot he dropped a hog that we ended up mounting for him. But and then after that he just started everything else. And but hey, like I said, don't push your kids. If they want to, they will come around. And so I'm happy. I couldn't be happier that he wants to get into it.
I got a cool story. Month and a half, 2 months ago, my boy's 14. He's going to be 15, and it's the father son button heads part of life right now. And he's always gone with me, and everybody sees pictures of him. He's always gone with me. But it's his interest has kind of waned a little bit. He just does it because Dad does it. Him and I kind of butted heads one day, and he went out back for a walk, to get away from Dad, and he came back. Now this little, 30 acres, 40 acres back there, I've been all over that, and he came back with a little deadhead spike. It was all, white and old. I don't know how. I'd never seen it, but he came back with that, and it was awesome. Like, I hope that when he has problems in his life, that's what he does. Goes for a walk in the woods and, and it clears his head. So it was awesome for me. That skull, I was going to take a picture, is still sitting out on the porch, but just a good moment for me. Like, at least he didn't run into town or, go sit in front of a computer or, play a video game. He went out in the woods and found a little deadhead. That was pretty awesome. So, getting your kids out, getting them involved in something healthy, and maybe they'll come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad he did that. And he'll probably remember that he did that too.
Yeah, for about 15 minutes.
Give him time.
It's funny. I got to ask you, being from Florida, what's with the Illinois hat there? What do we got going on there?
That's where Sasha got his PhD, University of Illinois.
Okay, gotcha.
So, this is kind of reminder to you. We're still looking for that flex fit.
I know.
Not the opening, not the upside down U that you got going on your hat backwards. I got to have this, because down here I can't wear yours. I'd have the stupidest tan line in the world. So this is what I got to do.
Trust me, you made that comment, and it's been in my head. Like, me and Rob, we both wear hats like this. We need flex fit, so they're coming, and you will get one for sure.
Awesome. So I'm looking forward to summer scouting here, even though it's, it's 100 degrees with the heat index, but I just like getting out there, and, you just got to hydrate and wear the right kind of clothes. But, I want to do some out of state hunts, Stu. I've got a standing invite. I got, go back to Ohio. I've still got to break that curse up there. I don't know if I'll go, but I get invite for Arkansas. I've never hunted Arkansas, so that might come through. And then I also got an invite to Michigan. So I've never anticipated with so much enthusiasm a fall as this one. So I can't wait.
And that's awesome to get rekindled and recharged, get the batteries recharged. I'm looking forward to see how you shoot left-handed.
Yeah, it's kind of a want to, have to thing. So I've got all summer, and right now I'm pretty confident at close range, I can do it. But, by fall, I want to, not 30, 40 yard shots, but, reasonable trad range, 15, 18 yards consistently. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a quick question for you. I really enjoyed in the Walk in the Woods, Compton's magazine, the kind of the member profiles you were doing, the interviews you did with Clay. They're going to continue doing that?
I can't say because it's not my baby anymore, but I will certainly suggest it. The other thing is that I didn't do much of, and a lot of it was just didn't have the time to sit down. And I don't watch much TV, but I like hunting DVDs, and I wanted to start kind of a DVD thing because people are still putting them out there. Either directly online because that's better now than the packaging and so forth. But people are still putting some stuff together. So if I have time, I'd still like to help with the magazine and write stuff when I can. But Don and TJ and I talked about it, and as much as I love the Compton thing, there was just no way. There was just no way to do both.
Oh no, I can't imagine. I mean,
there's just too much going on at TBM to learn and absorb to do, and it wouldn't be fair to either process. And in TBM, when the door knocks, sorry, I'm going through.
Oh heck yeah. I brought up DVDs a while back, and I got laughed at nobody uses DVDs. So yeah, I've downloaded, but I downloaded. Gosh, I think it was something like Masters of the Barebow or something. I've downloaded a couple things. Gosh, who was that? Oh, it was Mike Minton, Seeking Solitude.
That I reviewed for Compton. That was one of the first things I did. Yeah. Because I always like a little backstory. So Mike and I exchanged a couple emails because I had questions that I thought would have added content to my review. But yeah, what he does, when him and Monty, each go out there and do their own thing for 3 weeks. That's that's a thing though that I was thinking about this because I've obviously listened to both of those guys on podcasts a number of times, but it's you understand this too, that you're in such a rat race here in our world that sometimes if you're on a like some of our management area hunts here in Florida are 5 days if you can get that week off, but it usually takes me 2 days to just let your shoulders down and just feel like you're part of it again, and to relax. And I think, man, if you're out there for 3 weeks, eventually it could be obviously very intimidating being out there alone. But I think that I'm sure that, guys like Monty Brownie or Mike Minton, they find that rhythm, there's a rhythm to just surviving. And this is what I do at this time of day and when, because, just going to, me and my friends here when we hit a management area and we're at a campground and this is the rhythm of becomes the rhythm of life by the time you have a couple scouting days and maybe 5 days to hunt, but you get into that rhythm and it's relaxing after a while when you just let the rest of it fall away and just realize that my job is just to hunt and be in the woods right now, and that in itself is kind of a healing process, but it takes me that day or two to unwind.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't, but it does. It just does.
I find it doesn't happen all the time, but I find some days when I go in the woods, I call it I'm looking, but I'm not seeing. Right, my mind isn't in it. I'm looking, but I'm not like, I'm not absorbing it. I could be looking at a bull, and I feel like it could be right in front of me, and I'm just not seeing it. So I think it's similar. But I just got back from 4 or 5 days by myself down in central Idaho, and I used to do it more. I used to spend more time solo, but over the years, I don't know what it is. I mean, 4 or 5 days and I was done. I had to have some interaction. I don't know how in the heck those guys do 3 weeks by themselves. I mean, you got to be in a certain makeup, personality to be able to do that.
Yeah. The fact that Mike, he's said this to me in emails, but I've heard him say the exact same thing in podcast, so he's consistent, and it's true that he doesn't even take a book. He'll think about an article he wants to write and takes a pen and paper, and that's what he does in his downtime. But see, for me, I don't know if I could do that, but I'm such a prolific reader. That's I've always got books or my Kindle or something. That's how I pass the time. But when you're really out there and you're doing it, there isn't a lot of time.
No,
when you're actually involved in the process. But, I can imagine laying in your tent at night trying to fall asleep. I'd need a book or something.
Well, for me, it's when I'm hunting, like you wake up in the morning, you make some breakfast, you have some coffee, you take off, and all, that's easy. I mean, you're hunting all day. I don't mind. I enjoy hunting by myself. It's when you get back to the tent and you're making dinner, and it's that hour that you are making dinner and climbing in your sleeping bag, man, it just, it's tough on me, like just not talking to somebody. That's why I have a podcast, so I can talk a lot, I guess. But yeah,
there's some guys that, I know guys and they're friends of mine and they're great people, but they don't like hunting alone.
They don't like hunting alone?
No, there's just like got to be some kind of almost, military type. You do this and I'm going to go here. Oh man, I can't. I'm not about that. I don't mind. I like camaraderie and sitting around the fire, and that's BS, and that's tribal. I mean, we do need that. That's
Mm-hmm.
But I live down south, and I had an hour's drive to the check station at the edge of the big cypress there, and then another 10-15 minute drive to where I parked, and then a mile through basically water and hip boots to get to my stand. And you step out of your truck at 5:30 in the morning and it's pitch black and all you hear is night birds and frogs and maybe a gator, and you can't hear or see anything else. It's, you feel like you're the last man on earth. And then you just step out on that flooded prairie and say, we're just going for it. It's just me. And there's something appealing about that self-reliance, but you also have the comfort that when you're done, you can get in your truck and go home. So
Yeah.
it's not being in the middle of Alaska by any means, but it's that time where, especially down south as the season wears on, that, if bow season down there is, 5 weeks, after the first weekend or two, then these guys, they don't get something, they're gone, So literally where I park, I haven't seen or hear anybody.
Nice.
Because it's not easy hunting. And, that's the one thing I miss about South Florida. Whereas up here in Central Florida, the woods are a lot more competitive.
Oh yeah. Some of the greatest times I have, whether it be, September or December, that walk in or walk out, of the mountains, it's black. Like you say, it's black. You don't hear anything. And it's just you. And there's this level of self-reliant. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy hunting by myself. It's just that hour or so when you get back to the tent. I think when I used to spend more time in the woods by myself, as we're talking, that was horseback, right? So, you'd have 5 or 6 or 8 head of stock, and you might be alone for a few days, but you were talking to the horses. So I guess that was, that was the difference there. They never talked back, so I had never been there that long. So, well, hey, man.
Yeah.
I really, it's probably going to be tough to get you on the podcast here in a few months. You're going to be burning the candle at both ends, but I think you're going to kill it.
I appreciate that. I've gotten, again, I'm stepping into something that, I never saw coming, but I'm so grateful to have the opportunity. And I just hope I can, do my part and keep it moving forward, because it's just, such a great magazine and a great family that runs it. And everybody, I was getting texts and emails, when, you get a text from Monty Browning, hey, I know you're going to do good. That's, and, he wasn't the only one, but when you get, from somebody like that, you're going to do a good job, it makes you feel like, okay, I'm in a good place here. And so everybody's been really supportive, but I'm sure there are people like replacing Don Thomas with Dave Who, and that's to be expected. Yeah, that's absolutely to be expected. But I think a lot of these people don't know how close you actually work with your editor, all these years. And Don is the kind of guy who, if he sees that interest and passion, he's gonna help you. When you listen to what he says or comments on something you wrote. So I think that part of it has, helped both he and TJ have the confidence that, hopefully I'm the guy.
So I got to ask, what will be the official title? Are you the editor or the co-editor?
No, it's co-editor.
Yeah.
So TJ is the editor, founder, publisher. It's his magazine, his baby. So, even though Don's been, at it 20 years, he's, co-editor, because you're sharing those responsibilities. So, until I got, into the inner circle of it all to realize, who does what, but basically, what Don absorbs and what he's been teaching me is all the feature stuff comes through Don. So I'm going to see all the features and make those decisions where to place them. Of course, being the new guy, I'm going to have a zillion questions still. Don said, no matter what, I'm always going to be here to help you. And TJ helped make those decisions too. But, basically TJ will be looking to me for direction of what we want to have, what we don't want to have. So I'm basically we'll be dealing with the features and the columnist, and, TJ does, all the letters go to him. He looks at those, the gear, products, things like that. And then, there's a whole team between, Robin and Carrie and Amanda, that the advertising. And, when you look at the masthead, you've got people working in the advertising sales end of it too. So it's a family business, but really it is a big operation, and there's a lot to learn. And, it's a challenge, but it's one that I'm really enjoying the process so far.
Yeah, I imagine getting your feet under you there. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But I look forward to seeing your style come through because I really enjoyed it in walking the woods.
Well, I appreciate that because TJ has he always has ideas. He knows I have some, and at some point he even talked about flying me out there to Idaho and just spending a couple of days and kicking things around because obviously I need to get my feet under me, but there'll be an expectation at some point. Okay, new guy, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've got ideas and we'll see what happens.
Well, look forward to it, man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, man. Stay out of the hot sun there. Stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Good talking to you.
Take care, man. Appreciate it.